So yesterday, Apple released or announced the iPhone 6 and the iPhone 6 Plus. The iPhone 6 has a resolution of 750 by 1334, and the iPhone 6 Plus has a resolution of 1080 by 1920. They are both 16 by 9 aspect ratio, but obviously have bigger screens and a lot more pixels per inch. So they are scales up from the current iPhone, but if you're a developer, you know you have to account for these screen sizes. So what Apple's done in the new Xcode is do something called size classes. You're probably wondering why this is a square, and I was too at first. And they have this kind of lame system. I'm not a fan of this at all. It's not intuitive. You can come down here and you can select this box. So, for example, right now we're at any width and any height. If we go down to regular width and regular height, that's for iPads. If we go over here to compact width and regular height, that's for all iPhones. And let me show you what they want you to do here. So right here, we're in Storyboard, and right here, we're in a preview for our Storyboard. So what we can do is we can go in, we can add an iPhone 3.5 inch, iPhone 4 inch, iPhone 4.7 inch, and iPhone 5.5 inch. I'm not going to touch on iPad today because it's a similar process, and I just want you to get the concept down. So if we go in and we drag an image view perfectly centered into this, we get image views in varying sizes on all of our iPhone previews over here. For example, 3.5, 4 inch, 4.7 inch, 5.5 inch. So if you didn't know, 3.5 inch is the 4S, 4 inch is the iPhone 5 or 5S, 4.7 inch is the iPhone 6, and 5.5 inch is the iPhone 6 Plus. So you can see that it's centered here, but it's not centered on any of these, not even the biggest one. You can see we have a little bit more space over here. That's cut off. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom out again and show you what Apple's done to try to remedy this and make it so that you don't have to do a lot of work and still code for a bunch of stuff. So what we do is we go down with our image view selected, and we add item constraints to our image view. And we're going to add 4 constraints so it's perfectly centered. Now you'll realize over here that these are now perfectly centered. Well, I'm personally not a fan of this system at all. So let me show you what I do to get around this. So what I'm going to show you today is how to account for every new and old iPhone screen size without having to mess with Autolayout and only writing a few lines of code. So what you're going to learn in this tutorial is how to account for each iPhone size or iPad size if you want by using a multi-storyboard setup. In this setup, we're going to have a separate storyboard for every single phone size that we'll have. You're also going to learn how to account for the new Retina HD screen sizes that the iPhone 6s have. For example, this is simply 3 times size. So before you had 2 times size for Retina HD you have 3 times size. You're also going to learn how to account for the new launch image sizes. Because we have new iPhones, we obviously have bigger sizes to account for, and that means a new launch image. So the way I got around this is creating a separate storyboard for every iPhone screen size. That way, although it is a bit tedious, you can just drag in what you want for each view and wherever you want it. So that way you don't have to write any code for changing it. And that way, you also don't have to account for auto layout, because auto layout to me is nonsensical. It doesn't make much sense. So I'm only going to do portrait today, so I'm going to uncheck these two. For launch images, because there are different launch images sizes for the new iPhones, I'm going to use our asset catalog rather than the XIB they give us. I'm going to go ahead and delete this because I just want to use an image. The XIB doesn't make much sense to me, but it's a way to give a launch screen without having so many image sizes. Well, I just want to use image, so I'm going to change our launch image source to launch image in our asset catalog, and I'm going to just delete this so we don't have a file, because if that file's there, we'll just get a black screen because I just deleted the file, so we just want to keep this blank. And obviously our app icon is our app icon in this. So the first thing I'm going to do is just show you the new iPhone screen sizes. So right now we only have 7 and 8. So let's go over here and do every single iPhone screen size. So we have iOS 8 and later and iPhone 6 and prior. So we have a lot of screen sizes. 1 times for iOS 5 and 6 is 320 by 480. Now the 2 times is double that, obviously, because it's 2 times. It's 640 by 960. The Retina 4 is the size of the iPhone 4. Now that's 2 times, but it's also extended a little bit to the 16 by 9 aspect ratio. So it is 640 by 1136. The 2 times for iOS 7 and 8 are the same for iOS 5 and 6. So we're going to just drag in the same images that we had down below. So now we have the iOS 8 sizes. These are the new sizes. So the 4.7 inch is the iPhone 6. The screen size for that is the same size as the phone. It's 750 by 1334. And finally, we have the iPhone 6 Plus size. That's 5.5 inches, and it's actually not the screen size unlike every other launch image. It is 1242 by 2208. Now I'm guessing they do this so that you can downscale it. That's how we do launch images. Now obviously, because we do have a different PPI, pixels per inch, than the previous iPhone versions, we do have a 3 times image. So I'm just going to click on new image set, and you see now we have 1 times, 2 times, and 3 times. So 1 times is your standard iPhone. That was like what the first iPhone was, the iPhone 3G. It's the non-Retina version. 2 times is the Retina version. 3 times is the Retina HD version for the new iPhones. So obviously we have another size to account for. So all you're going to want to do is, for your images, simply, if you have 1 times, you code for 1 times. So if your image is 100 by 100, for 2 times it would be 200 by 200, and for 3 times it would be 300 by 300, because you just multiply. Now, I do have some images over here, and we're going to use that for our example. So we have 1 times size, that's obviously the smallest. We have 2 times size, and that's the second biggest. And obviously we have 3 times size. So 3 images for every image you have in your code. Now app icons are basically the same way, and I'm not going to show you that because it's the exact same thing as image. This image right here. You have 2 times, you have 3 times, and for the new iPhones, all you have to do is multiply this 60 point by 2 times and 3 times. So for previous iPhones, you had to supply an icon that was 120 by 120 pixels. Well, for the new iPhones with the Retina HD display, you have to have a 180 by 180 because 60 times 3 is obviously 180. But like I said, the way I'm getting around all the new iPhone sizes by using a different storyboard for each iPhone size. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and here and rename our main.storyboard. I'm going to change that to iPhone 3.5 for iPhone 3.5 inch, and then change this, the size from inferred to iPhone 3.5 inch. I'm going to delete this image view because I'll show you how to account for everything then. We're going to go to File, New, File, and then you probably are on Source. You want to go down to User Interface and Storyboard. Now I'm going to name this iPhone 4, and I'm going to put that in base.iproj. That's where they keep your storyboards. That's just the way the project generates it. So you'll see we have iPhone 4.storyboard here, and there's nothing in it. I'll show you how to populate that then. But we're going to add 2 more storyboards for both of the new iPhone 6s. So again, go into storyboard. I'm going to call this iPhone 4.7 because it is 4.7 inch screen for the new iPhone 6, and put that in base.iproj. And again, do that for the iPhone 6 Plus size. So go to storyboard, next, and do the same thing. I'm going to call it iPhone 5.5 because the iPhone 6 Plus has a 5.5 inch screen. Now, iPhone 3.5 is the only one we have accounted for in all these? Because these are empty, we just created them. Well, first thing I'm going to do is go in here and change main interface just to 3.5. This doesn't matter. I'm just changing it to 3.5 because that's the first one we have, and that's the smallest size, but I will tell you how to get around this later. I'm just going to populate these very quickly with a ViewController, and unfortunately, size classes are default, so you're going to want to go to the first tab and uncheck Use Size Classes, disable size classes, and currently we are in the iPhone 4 storyboard, so I'm going to go over here to the Settings tab and change it to iPhone 4-inch. I'm going to go over to 4.7, drag this in here. Again, we're going to have to disable size classes. Disable size classes, go over here to Settings, once this is selected, and do 4.7-inch, because this is our 4.7-inch storyboard. Going to do the same thing over here for our iPhone 6 Plus. So disable size classes, go over here to Settings, and choose iPhone 5.5-inch. Now in all these, what you're going to want to do is click or check in the Settings tab is Initial ViewController, because if you don't do that, the storyboard's not going to know where to start. So what we're going to do is go over here to the Custom Class tab and select ViewController. You'll notice right here I only have one header and one implementation file. So what we're going to want to do is change every single one of these starting ones, because we're assuming ViewController is our initial ViewController, the one we want to start out on. We're going to assume that this is the one we want to start out on. So we're going to change every class on all of these to ViewController. So, we have ViewController on all these because we want to, obviously, we want this screen to be our ViewController. And that one's already connected because that was the first one we had. So what we can do is go in and put, I'm just going to put a label in. And I'm going to put this, I'm going to say iPhone 3.5-inch. And just send it that quick. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to put it in this. And change it to iPhone 4-inch because this is our 4-inch controller. And I don't have this checked as is Initial ViewController, but now I do. I'm going to go ahead and copy this and bring it over to this one. And call that 4.7-inch. Center that real quick, and is Initial ViewController. And copy that in here. We already have this one as our Initial ViewController, and change that to 5.5-inch. And center that real quick. Now, what I'm going to do is drag just a static label into all these, and make it bigger so that we can fit. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to paste it into this one. Make that centered real quick. Paste that into this one. Make it centered real quick. And obviously paste that into this one centered real quick. Now to prove that these are all the same ViewController, even though we have different storyboards, we're going to declare a property real quick in our header file for our ViewController. So app property non-atomic, retain, IB outlet, UI label, star, and then just label. So obviously go into our ViewController.m, and in our view.did_load, I'm just going to do underscore label dot text space equals space the first view, and end that with a semicolon. So once we have that, we can go into our storyboards, and because our class, we've selected ViewController, and obviously we've declared a property that is label, and because it also has an IB outlet, we can go in and we can drag label to, obviously, label, the label we declared. Now, this is important because I'm just trying to show you that you can obviously use these like you normally do, and obviously account for that. So I dragged in these labels at the top, specifying the size, to show you that when we do run them as different sizes, that they will be different. Because each storyboard has a different one for this, And obviously when we run these, you'll see that it does display differently for each size. Now obviously this label, even though that it is declared label for our view controller, that property that we just declared, it is obviously at a different size than the one we have in 4.7, the one we have in the 4-inch, and the one we have in the 3.5-inch. And that is how we get around it with different storyboards. So yes, this is a little bit tedious, but you know, whatever. And I'm going to drag in an image view quickly, and just center that real quick here. And I'm going to set that to image because we made that image earlier, and I'm just trying to show you that the 3 times size does upscale automatically, because that is the way it works. That's the way it works with 2 times Retina, and it does upscale automatically without any code needed for the 3 times size. So there we go. We have all of our images in here. I'm going to drag in a button real quickly and show you that obviously we can do different sizes, but drag in another view controller. Now I'm going to need to set this to 3.5-inch because this is the 3.5-inch view controller, and create a segue. I'm just going to choose modal. If you didn't know, you can create a segue by hitting Control on a button and clicking and dragging to the view controller you want. Now I've already done that, so I'm obviously not going to connect that again. I'm going to go into here and just copy this button so I can paste it in this view controller. I'm going to put it on the bottom of each of these, just to kind of demonstrate that if you were to have an interface and you wanted a button on the bottom, you could easily do that. So again, Control click, and we want modal. The 4.7 view controller, have to come in here and change this to 4.7-inch, and then we're going to want to go in and drag a button and control click and drag in modal, and then 5.5 storyboard. We want a button, we want a new view controller with the 5.5-inch iPhone, and again, modal segue. Now each of these, I'm going to create a new file up in source, Cocoa Touch class. I'm just going to call a second view controller, and I'm going to put this in my normal project folder. So now that we have the second view controller, I'm going to go in, I'm going to declare another label quickly. So add property non-atomic, comma, retain, IB outlet, UI label, star label. So now that we have this label declared, we're going to go into our view to load, do underscore label dot text space equals space, at quotes, this is the second view. And I'm doing this just to show you that you can obviously have more than one view in this multi-storyboard setup. So we're going to declare this class as second view controller, and then drag in a label. And we can go ahead and center that, but also go up here into our connections tab and connect label to label. So I'm going to copy this, and this is the tedious part I was talking about. You know, you've seen me do this for every single one, and that is the downside. We do need to select the class for this one of second view controller. And like I was saying, this was the tedious part, and that is why Apple created sized classes, so that you can hopefully get around that, as well as auto layout, because in this method, it does take time, but you arguably save time not having to mess with auto layout or having to code for each size. Now you do have to drag in everything like that, but dragging in and doing this every single time is obviously a lot easier than having to code for that. So that's why I'm using this purpose, or this setup. So obviously drag in a label and set the class and set the connection for label to label. And in the iPhone 5.5 storyboard, we're going to do the same thing. in our second view controller that we've already created, we can put in second view controller and then drag in another label. Now these are all going to be different sizes, so it might end up being cut off. But I'm just trying to show an example here that you can have more than one view controller, and obviously, even though this says label, when we run it, because we have we're setting our label that we just declared, this is the second view, it will show as this is the second view. And obviously, because we have different iPhone storyboards, that they're obviously all in different spots, as you can see. This one's definitely in a different position than this one. And when we run, you'll see that. And so here's where the magic comes in. Now, typically, you can't set a storyboard for each iPhone size. So what we're going to do is go to our appdelegate.m. I'm just going to delete this pre-generated comment, hit enter twice, and here's where we go. So what we're going to do is cg size space iOS screen size space equals space open bracket UI screen space main screen close bracket bounds close bracket dot size and end that with a semicolon. I forgot to capitalize the S, so that's why we were getting an error. And currently, what we're going to do is if iOS screen size dot height is equal to 480 open bracket, and this is what we're doing. So when the app delegate, or when the app first launches, it starts in our main.m file, and it executes the app delegate class. So once that happens, it obviously goes up to app delegate, and did finish launching is then what it calls. So in our did finish launching, what we're going to want to do is say, if this is the iPhone 3.5 inch screen, which has a height of 480, we're going to want to change the storyboard to our iPhone 3.5 storyboard. And that's the code we're going to do now. So UI storyboard star iPhone 3.5 storyboard. You can name it anything because it is a variable. UI storyboard space storyboard with name, and then what you want to do is change this name to the iPhone, whatever you named this one. Mine is iPhone 3.5, so I'm going to input at quotes iPhone 3.5, and our bundle will be nil, close bracket, semicolon. Now that we've declared that object, we're going to need to do something with it. So UI ViewController initial view controller space equals space open bracket whatever you name this UI storyboard right here. So mine is iPhone 3.5 storyboard. Instantiate initial view controller close bracket semicolon. And then what we're going to do is self.window space equals space, two open brackets, UI window, alloc, init with frame, and double open bracket, UI screen, main screen, close bracket, space, bounds, close bracket, semicolon. And then self dot window, we want an open bracket here. Self dot window space make key and visible. And somehow we're getting an error here. Oh, yep, I found why. I forgot a line of code. Self dot window dot root view controller space equals space initial view controller. So basically what all this code is doing is saying if our iOS screen is 3.5 inches because the height for the 3.5 inch screen is 480, we want to change our UI storyboard to our iPhone 3.5 storyboard, which is the one we did here. So obviously these two sizes are the 3.5 inch. So yeah, our initial storyboard is our initial storyboard here. So the one we declared as initial ViewController. And then our self.window is the frame for whatever we have in our storyboard. And our root ViewController is our initial ViewController that we declared up here. And then obviously we want to make it visible. So obviously we need to account for all of the other sizes. So I'm going to copy that down here, change this height to 468 because that is the 4-inch storyboard. And my storyboard for the 4-inch iPhone is iPhone 4. I'm just going to change this to 4. That's just a little formality. Just keep your code kind of neat and understandable. And that's all we need to account for the iPhone 4-inch storyboard. So, once you get this typed out, it's not bad. So, if height is equal to, now this is obviously different because this is our iPhone 6. It is 667. So, it changes quick. So, iPhone 4.7 storyboard is equal to iPhone 4.7 because that is what I named my 4.7 storyboard. I'm going to change these, obviously. And then copy this again. And for our iPhone 6 Plus, you're going to want to change the number to 736. For our iPhone 6 Plus, the height is 736. And I'm going to change this to iPhone 5.5 storyboard. And then because my iPhone 5.5 inch storyboard is named iPhone 5.5, I'm going to change that. And obviously this. And that is all we should need. So what we're going to go ahead and do is select iPhone 4S and run it. So iPhone 4S is our 3.5 inch screen. And you'll see right there the launch image. We obviously have our image right here. The iPhone 4S is Retina, so this is our 2x image. And it says the first view and iPhone 3.5 inch at the top. Now if we click the button, we're going to get the second. This is the second view. And so obviously that works for iPhone 4S. Now we can go down here. We can go to iPhone 5S and run it. iPhone 5S is our 4-inch, so it should be using iPhone 4.storyboard, which it is. You can tell by iPhone 4-inch at the top. This the first view. We have our image right here, and we click this button, and this is the second view. So obviously that works. We can stop this. We can go down to iPhone 6. We can run it. And the iPhone 6 is obviously the 4.7-inch view. We can tell that we're using the iPhone 4.7.storyboard file because we have this label at the top. The first view, we have our image, but if we click the button, we can see that this is the second view. So obviously that works too. And finally, if we go to iPhone 6 Plus, we run that. The iPhone 6 Plus is the 5.5-inch screen. So this is using the iPhone 5.5.storyboard. And we can tell by this label at the top, iPhone 5.5 inch. And obviously that these are in different positions. Our declaration obviously works because we have the first view up here. And if we click button, we go to the second view. And that is obviously 5.5 inch. Congrats, you actually made it to the end. I'd like to say that I also work as a freelance app developer. If you'd like to hire me, you can inquire at my business email, me@aleckriebel.com. You can find that in the description or on the screen right now. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something, and subscribe for more video tutorials just like this.